Yeah. That's a really good point. So you guys both have kids that understand at some level of what you do. What do they think about it?
For the longest time, they thought I was teaching people how to play games.
Fair.
I was a teacher. And then they were like, you're a YouTuber. And I was like, what? No.
Pretty much, in a way.
But now they know that, like, sometimes they'll hear all my jokes, and I'm not like the most vulgar streamer. I've been called wholesome. It's annoying. But yeah, they'll usually like mimic a joke I say, or like she'll be like, oh my God, they're talking about peewisses in school today. And I was like, that's a mommy word. What are you doing? So, I mean, now they're like getting into their teens. So they're just like super curious, and I show them how hard it is to do what I do. Like every kid wants to be a YouTuber, but they have no idea how to do it. And their parents have no idea how to do it. And it's way harder than it looks. And it takes a lot of work. Like if my eldest was like, I want to do what you do, I'd be like, you're not ready. You're not good enough. Like you need to work on so many other things. Like I went to school and tried a bunch of different things. Like you have to go try a bunch of things before you, because let's say she starts streaming at 12, how interesting is that going to be? Besides having really creepy people coming into her chat. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's really important to let them know that it's there. I show them kind of what I do and how I do it. But like, I have multiple degrees. I have multiple things. I've traveled. I've done a bunch of stuff. So sort of having them be well-rounded a little bit and sort of have more choices, because then you won't run into like being 20 and doing really well, like streaming and creating content, and then being like, I don't know what else to do with my life. Like I've never got to try anything. So
yeah,
that's really important for me in the way that I see how streaming has been for me for another person coming up, because it's going to be very different in 10 years.
Right. We don't even know how it's going to be different, but it's going to be different.
Yeah, I have no clue if this is still happening in 5 years. It's happening right now, though. Yeah, so my kids have strangely come like full circle. When they were old enough to come in, I would have to explain, because it started with them just thinking that I think they just thought I was unemployed, and that I was just going in there and playing video games all day long and just talking to myself.
My dad's a bum.
Yeah, like I really think they thought, like, clearly they didn't understand the intricacies of like unemployment, but they just knew that daddy went into a room by himself, played video games for like 8 hours, and then came back out and never went to work like the other kids' parents did. And by the time they became cognizant of what chat was, I had to teach them that sometimes they were there and sometimes they weren't. And they used to come in and like talk to the webcam when it was off. Like they just always assumed that chat was in there with me. And the youngest one thought it was somebody named Chad that I was talking to for the longest time. And so he just always would come in and want to say hi to Chad. And then I made them understand that it's like a business, and that I'm working, and that I'm actually sort of community managing on top of entertaining people. And like Mav, it's become, now that they've got an understanding of it, because it started as, oh, well, daddy goes in there and plays video games and people give me money. And I say, well, but it's more complicated, but yeah. And then it's gotten critical, because they'll come in and now they're at the age where they ham it up a little bit on those times they sneak in front of the camera. And they'll say, oh, well, I want to stream. And I'll be like, you'd be terrible. Right now, you'd be awful. Like,
no one would watch you.
Right. I'm just like, your comedic material is contrived at best. Yeah. Like nothing about your performance feels sincere. You're not old enough to have your voice. You don't know what you're needing to say when you get in front of the camera. And you certainly couldn't understand the technical. Like I bury them in the technical of it.
The rule, like a good rule, is if they can't brush their teeth without you telling them, they're not ready.
Yeah. And so there's been like, oh, when I grow up and become a streamer, and I'm like, strike one. Why don't you learn some things? And then if none of that in the world works out, you can come back and look at this if there's still a family business to inherit. But but yeah, like I don't know. They have often on months where one month they want to be a streamer, and then the next month they're like, I'd rather go get a real job. And I was like,
I just wanna eat cake."
music to my ears. Go be an engineer.
That's like 75% of streamers I know too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, honestly, most of them are eyeballing like, where do I land after all this said and done?
Right.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'd do better at a regular job.
In retrospect,
God.
a tiny bit of success was the worst thing that could have happened to me.